Hello, my name is Usha. I like talking about American presidents, U.S. history, and I discuss, legal cases. I draw attention also to the malicious and vindictive prosecution that I've been experiencing in Montgomery County, Maryland, for the past 3 years. Currently, I've been, in honor of doing some discussions in honor of Black History Month. Right now, I've been discussing the anti Semitic lynching of Leo Frank, who was a Jewish manager, came from a prominent family from New York, and he'd been an Ivy League graduate. He was a mechanical engineering graduate of Cornell University, and he was apparently not only framed for the murder of um, a child laborer, a white female named Mary Fagan, but he was wrongfully convicted and then, uh, but in a barbaric fashion, he was grotesquely lynched. He was hanged, uh, you know, for a crime he apparently, evidence and history shows he didn't commit. And he was lynched in 1915. Now, this barbaric act happened in the South with the complicity of, um, corrupt prosecutors who planted evidence, paid false witnesses, and just whipped up racism, used racism against the Jewish man. Um, this happened 110 years ago, over a century ago, right? Um, the lynching occurred in 1915, and the wrongful prosecution, which led to his wrongful conviction, happened in 1913. Um, and we think that America has moved forward since then, but from my personal experience with the vindictive uh, prosecution in Maryland that I'm experiencing in Montgomery County, Maryland, under a racist and corrupt state attorney, John McCarthy, superintended by a crooked and racist judge and xenophobic judge, uh, Judge James Bonifant. What's been going on? It's so surreal. It's unbelievable that it's happening. My friends and family have been watching aghast, and what is more perplexing is that the media has ignored it, right? The media has completely ignored it. It shows the involvement of powerful figures, right? Very powerful figures in the Department of Defense, Department of the Navy, people affiliated with these, because that's where I was working as of the day I was, I was raided in my home, swatted. The police officers came like a lynch mob, and my my property was stolen, was destroyed. Things that weren't stolen were destroyed, right? Things that weren't destroyed were stolen. Uh, I'd been subjected to some kind of digital surveillance, right? My electronic devices were hacked. And, we're in a different world, and the state, the government, the police, they're now weaponizing our electronic devices against us, right? They're weaponizing the law for their self-aggrandizement. And people talk about the deep state, and my experience, I'm seeing, well, not just that um, some of our government agents, they are not only malicious and rogue actors, uh, but they're not even intelligent rogue actors, right? They manifest this deep incompetence driven by this racial animus, right? This is rank bigotry going on in Montgomery County, Maryland. And my family is watching. Fortunately, I come from a family that, well, they're highly educated. We're law-abiding people. We're respectable people. I have friends in journalism, right? International journalism. I have family. My brother, works for the federal government in Nigeria. He's head of news for the state's news. And everybody's looking that, well, justice should be served, right? They filed false charges against me, clearly fabricating evidence and witnesses, and there's been no trial. But meanwhile, I was locked up for an aggregate of 15 months, apart from being placed under house arrest for a year, right? Being barred from going to work. So, just blatant violations of my constitutional rights. I'm an American citizen, and I see, you know, it perplexes me that if I, as an educated person, I have a law degree, right? If I, as an educated person, a law abiding federal government employee, can experience these atrocities, these violations, what do indigent minorities experience? And I actually got to see what indigent minorities experience because I saw them, I investigated them, I asked them questions while wrongfully detained in jail. I saw the abuses that Montgomery County perpetrates against them, and corrupt and racist and xenophobic judges like Judge James Bonifant perpetrates, violating the laws that they're supposed to be custodians of. Um, Americans should pay attention to what's going on, and particularly for those immigrants, law abiding people who see America as the El Dorado, the paradise where everything works. You know, they should think twice, observe my situation, my case. One of the things that the malicious prosecution has tried to engineer is to isolate me, right? Isolate me from my friends, my family, because my family is actually Nigeria. They fabricated evidence, and I've done videos explaining what they've done. They fabricated evidence, conjured up false witnesses that they haven't yet used in the court of law, right? They've used these false witnesses and fabricated evidence to obtain ex parte orders, right? So they've gone before a judge, possibly a bribed judge like Judge Bibi Berry, to get them to give an order, right? Uh, Depriving me of my rights while I was falsely imprisoned, right? When I'm not there. Typically, when for the legal process to work properly, for it to demonstrate the equity and fairness, right? When a party files a motion or a case, a petition against someone, then you have your constitutional right to defend yourself, right? That's your constitutional right to be able to come out and defend yourself against any accuser, right? That right can't be violated if it's a criminal case. But the state of Maryland used two civil cases where they filed ex parte orders. They fabricated um, evidence, manufactured crimes I never committed, right? Meanwhile, they didn't charge me for those crimes. They defamed me, used a malicious defamation, and then conjured up a man who's not my uncle. That's Jide Iwarere, lying that he's my uncle. Got him to perjure an emergency evaluation petition. My family has already gone to court against this man in Nigeria. The state of Maryland has evidence, has a court order, a sworn affidavit from Nigeria that Jide Iwarere filed documents completely based on malicious lies, right, and misrepresentations, and that he's a perjurer, he's not my uncle, right? So they have all of this. That completely, uh, it destroys any case that they have against me because one, the police came to my home without an arrest warrant. I wasn't committing any crime. They had no probable cause. I was in my home, not committing any crime. I lived alone in my home. I didn't even know what was going on. They didn't give me any notice. So the abuse of the abuse of the legal process, right, that's going on today. It's redolent of what happened over 110 years ago. I've not been accused of murder. I've not been, knock on wood, I've not been accused of anything heinous, right? This thing ostensibly started with claims by Jide Iwarere that he wanted to get me to a hospital, right? So in violation of my family privacy rights, right? Because now it's been clear, it's clear, right? It's been determined, it's obvious that I was a victim of a swatting, that Jide Iwarere manufactured, and the states was suborned by Montgomery County Police, the racist Montgomery County Police, and crooked Montgomery County Police to manufacture a false emergency, right, as pretext to raid me and falsely imprison me and to assault me. I still bear the scarring from the from the stitches after they shot the projectile into my head. But I'm a Christian and God has preserved me. Um, as I as I was reading and the story of Leo Frank, and I saw the abuses of the state, right? How driven by anti-Semitism, driven by racism, driven by classism, you know, it sort of riled me. It got me. It was very jarring, and it I couldn't but help draw parallels to my case, where a state attorney has filed a malicious case, all trumped up charges against an innocent, law abiding person. You can only describe John McCarthy as a racist, a corrupt racist, because it shouldn't happen in a civilized world. And an innocent, law abiding person working for the federal government should have charges filed against them, that they should be locked up for 3 years. Only reason this can happen is when the prosecutor is a racist like John McCarthy. That's all I have to say. He's a corrupt racist. And I filed a prosecutorial misconduct against him. Um, it's unfortunate that corruption is appears to be entrenched in Montgomery County, Maryland. It's a very, in Maryland in general, I guess when they're talking about the Beltway corruption, they're referring to Maryland. It's deeply entrenched in the system. And they have this network or cabal of depraved actors, government actors who wield power. And the exposure of the Epstein files that they're talking about, I haven't paid attention. But you see the corruption, dark power forces going on, in America. It's sad, and Americans should pay attention. The international world should pay attention. And I'm just so shocked by what I'm experiencing in Montgomery County, Maryland. That it's one thing for the police to to display misconduct, or to be corrupt or to abuse their office, but for judges to participate in corruption, for state attorneys who have taken an oath, who have a legal obligation, professional ethics, they're violating their professional obligations. It's astonishing, right? John McCarthy, the state attorney of Montgomery County, Maryland. Um, this is not a matter of error. No, the state attorney's office in Montgomery County, Maryland is actively fabricating evidence, planting things that don't exist, creating false witnesses. They literally got a guy called Girma Shumi, an illegal alien who can't speak a word of English, pretend that he knew me, falsify material in order to get a peace order while they had falsely imprisoned me, right? They suborned him to fabricate a peace order saying I assaulted and kidnapped him. I haven't been charged for kidnapping and that I committed robbery or that I impersonated a cop. All these fabrications, right? I've gone to a judge, taken an oath, and told him, no, that this man committed perjury. He's a madman, he's a lunatic. I don't know how he got suborned to fabricate uh, the peace order he did, but he's the one who assaulted me. And I had evidence. Fortunately, I had a witness on May 14, 2023. My friend spoke with the police and said, hey, I just called her, told her that this guy assaulted me, that I was assaulted by an Ethiopian neighbor, right? He and Jide Iwarere, and but the state of Maryland State Attorney John McCarthy fabricated evidence. It's been 3 years, and they've been trying to uh, coerce me to take a wrongful plea bargain. They actually they've co-opted the public defender's office, and I'm seeing the injustice that minorities, black people suffer in Montgomery County, Maryland. the public defender's office been co-opted. They know that there's no evidence against me, that it's a malicious prosecution. But the public defender's office now offered me, representing the agency, the state attorney, that I should return to Nigeria and not come back for them to drop the trumped up charges, the false charges against me. Going back to, the Tuva Depression era, when they filed false charges against Mexican Americans born in America during the Great Depression, and coerced them to self-deport to Mexico, right, in order to vacate jobs for white men. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I'm just doing this to let the world know of the corrupt John McCarthy, State Attorney of Montgomery County, Maryland, and how his office has filed and continued a malicious, vindictive prosecution against me, a racist and xenophobic prosecution against me. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.